welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of Talking Innovation. Now, so many times I know I've told you, I'm the Gilligan in the equation. I seek out guests that would fit the professor role in that analogy. And man, today I got a great one. I'm so excited to talk to Jon Oltsik today. Now, if you don't know Jon, look him up on LinkedIn. You'll see all about him. But this dude is the real deal. He got into this industry even a year ahead of me. And, look at me, I'm old. Working, I think it was EMC is where he first cut his teeth. But the guy literally created the security practice at ESG, Enterprise Strategy Group. He was there for a couple of decades. Now he's blossomed and he's making even greater contributions to the world and providing tutelage to other analysts. And it's super, super exciting. And I'm super happy to have Jon on the program. So it's great to see you, Jon. Thanks for joining me, man. What's going on? What have you been up to?
Grant, it's great to see you too. Thank you for the gracious welcome. Doing a little consulting with some CISOs, doing a little research, especially around the AI SOC and changes happening in the exposure management space. And some writing. I have a podcast too. So staying.
What's your podcast?
My podcast is called the Cybersecurity Bridge. I do it generally every 2 weeks. And we have a standard format where we talk about a particular area of cybersecurity. We talk about the present, the future, and then the cybersecurity bridge. How do we get from the present to the future? So I'm enjoying that.
Cool. Yeah, that's neat. I'll have to listen to it or watch it or check it out. So talk about the AI SOC. I mean, and exposure management. That's something that's near and dear to obviously where I live as well. What's going on out there? Seems like things are changing a little bit, huh?
Yes, they are. So I'll start with the AI SOC. I don't track this, but people I know track this, and they say that there are between 125 and 150 companies focused in this area. I assume that means includes some of the old guard, like a Splunk or like a CrowdStrike or like a Palo Alto Networks, but it includes a number of venture-backed startups as well. I'm bullish on the concept. I think that it's obviously the way to go. It's especially like the short-term advantage is on the level 1 analyst type of activity.
Yep.
I mean, eyes on glass, alert monkeys. They had a lot of nicknames and sayings about them. But we can do that much more efficiently with AI. We can triage alerts. We can do a better job of enriching alerts and understanding whether an alert is a false positive or not.
Yeah.
So that's really the state of the art right now. I think if you read the marketing literature, they'll say, no, we're way beyond that.
Right.
But I'm not seeing implementation way beyond that. So again, I try to stay grounded, and I've always tried to stay grounded by talking to a lot of security practitioners. There's tremendous interest in this area, but there's also tremendous confusion. And these are security professionals. They're paid to be pessimistic. They're paid to question things and break things. And so they're opportunistic, but they're cautious here.
Right. So a couple of questions that come to my mind that I'm curious to hear your read on. First, I'll talk in the context of the SOC and the operations. There seems like there has been for a long time the potential and the tools to automate. I mean, truly to the end, right? But nobody wants to pull that trigger. They always want to get right to the cliff and then go, okay, let me check it out. Okay, yeah, go. And so how will this change that? And then the other question, which is in another context or kind of another concern, and that is when we totally wipe off the chessboard, all the pawns, I mean, all of those entry level one people, where do they come from? How do we create the resource, the environment, the experience that's getting so rapidly replaced so that the cream can rise to the top and mature and move up through the ranks. So you can take those in whatever order you'd like.
Okay, what was the first question again?
The automating,
Oh, automation.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like we've had cloud bots and all these different things where I could, oh, I got an S3 bucket that's unencrypted. It'll go and find encrypted. Boom.
Yes.
But the end-to-end completion of that automation
Yes.
is what seems to have been lagging. And so my question is, how or will that change from from actually, putting the finishing nail on everything, right? And then
Yeah.
how do I get comfort in that any differently than not doing it and being able, how do I get that same level of satisfaction or comfort, right?
Yes. So the day that I started as a cybersecurity analyst was the Monday after Gartner had said IDS is dead, the world goes to IPS. Okay, and that was 23 years ago.
Mm.
And there's still IDS. There's more comfort in things like IPS, but the first time you
Turn it
disrupt
on and something breaks.
exactly, you disrupt a critical system,
Yeah.
you stop some network traffic that is again business critical, that breaks. So and if you project forward from that, like 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer, the buzz was about SOAR, and so security, orchestration, automation, and response, and that was a good progression in terms of centralizing those operations, but it was very brittle, and it required someone to write the scripts in Python,
Right.
and then we went to low code, no code, but it was still pretty brittle. Um, with agents, we can improve on that. An agent can improvise a little bit with the right guardrails. So where we are today is human in the loop. And to the point that you just made, there's a lot of human in the loop actions where we're really conscientious about, do we take this action or not? But when we do, it's a push button action.
Right.
So should I quarantine Grant's system? Yes or no? Well, Grant's an executive. Grant's at a board meeting. I probably shouldn't do that. So I'm
Right.
giving that option. Now, the more comfortable we get with agentic AI, the more we learn to orchestrate the agents themselves, the more comfort we'll get with automation. And this kind of dovetails into your second question, Grant, is that that's a skill set that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So you'd have to have a fundamental understanding of security. You'd have to have a fundamental understanding of threats, fundamental understanding of the business value of assets and actions,
Yep.
and then an understanding and skill set around agent coding, agent orchestration, guardrail
The
management.
workflow that they're trying to address. I mean, they're going
That's
to have
right.
to have at least the business acumen to understand that
Right.
that process, that workflow, right?
Exactly. And probably some understanding of I'm in security. I'm not that person who patches that system. That's an IT ops job.
Right.
So, old school, we opened up a ticket, maybe new school. The human in the loop is an IT ops person, not the security person. But the context of that message is how critical this is. Yes, there's an exposed asset. Yes, there's known exploits in the wild. Yes, there's a threat actor who's using those exploits actively in our sector, in our geography. Okay, so that now you have a priority.
And what you're talking about, those data, that those attributes of the risk,
Yes.
that's where AI is so amazingly powerful, because it can gather and scour and know that information, where that level one support person would like probably get paralyzed, wouldn't have a
Yeah,
clue, right?
yeah, that
They
would
just
be,
wouldn't.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that would be something that that level one person would escalate.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Somebody else would be doing it.
so you can be programmatic about these things too. Now, risk changes, IT infrastructure changes, and it's going to change a lot faster with agents
Yeah,
because aside from security, agents are running around doing business stuff.
yeah.
So that's a future role. Now, to get to your second question about what about training, so I just wrote a piece for CSO Online about new jobs that I think will be very prevalent in an AI security world. However, how do we get people on board? Because that level one alert monkey, eyes on glass person is a junior person. They learn,
Yep.
they work with senior people. If that goes away, what happens? I think there'll be a lot more simulation. So the analog that I've heard many times is like a flight simulator, is that you'll use things like cyber ranges. It'll be an exact copy of your infrastructure. We'll emulate really close emulation of an attack in progress, and that's the way people will learn.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so I think the
Hmm.
education process changes. You'll want to look for someone who's certified with this kind of simulated training, but it will have to adjust because, as you say, it's not like we don't need security people. We do,
Hmm.
but they're just
Hmm.
going to come from a different place.
Yeah, and I think you make some really great points. The fact that we, I've said, and I'm sure you've heard and read, you're not going to lose your job to AI, full stop. You're going to lose your job to someone that does your job but uses AI and you don't. And I think everyone kind of subscribes and agrees with that. I think though that what people have to, and maybe there's the whole, I'm an analogy guy, John, but I think of, these spaceships. I just saw, Virgin goes up to zero gravity and they're only there for a short time and then they come back down. Well, that's kind of what I see in terms of what's happening, at obviously from a higher level in the industry, where we're reaching this point of where people are in a state of zero gravity because they're going to change when that gravity comes back. Maybe some of them won't, but many of them will, based on what you're talking about. And so, I go to this zero state, and now how I learn is going to be a completely different process if I want to be in that game. Right? I mean, if I want to be in that industry where before I could go in and climb the ladder. I think that's a very interesting. So it does a couple of things. It opens up some exciting new opportunities for training, for orientation, for the simulation. Um, and so, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't just move the same job. I think that's the other thing, is there's a repurposing, a learning that has to go on. You're not going to be able to just say, oh well, I want to do that now, and not make any effort. You know what I mean? Where I think you can kind of be in that lane in a business that doesn't go through such amazing transformation, and you can glide down the river and stay in it.
Yes.
Tons of mixed metaphors there, I know.
No, I'm trying to think of a job like that where you can just kind of gradually learn, skate through your career, and end your career at the same company you started at. I mean, it's possible, but I think things are changing so quickly. And so I've worked for years with the ISSA, the Information System Security Agency,
Right.
our association, and I mean, that's a professional organization. And I think it's worthwhile to join if you're a cybersecurity professional, to join that organization or others like it, to keep your thumb on the pulse, or your, what's
Mm-hmm.
the metaphor? Your finger on the pulse, your
Yeah.
hand on the pulse
Something.
of
Keep a
what's
pulse.
happening and changing.
Keep
Now,
a pulse.
keep
Keep a
keep a
pulse.
pulse, absolutely, because where there's change, there's always tremendous opportunity. And again, that's what in my CSO article, CSO online article, I defined 5 jobs that I don't think exist today, but I think in 2 years, if you have that skill set, you'll be in high demand.
Yeah.
And like anything else, Grant, you have to manage your career. There's a little bit of uncertainty here, but you have to pay attention to what's going on and try to navigate as best you can.
Yep. 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 And this is the exciting thing about this industry, Jon, is no matter when you get into it, you're getting in at the beginning of something that's
That's
new,
true.
and it has been that way for more than 40 years for me, and I love it. And there's some people that are seemingly mortified by AI and what's going on, and I could certainly empathize, and we could analyze some of the risks and concerns and unintended consequences that may come about. But the flip side of that is it is so absolutely incredible how and what it can do, and how it's changed my life, my wife's life, and just how we operate. I love it. And so I wonder, based on your experience, I'm kind of shifting on here. I'm really, really curious to know the truth about the use of AI within corporate America. And what I mean by that is, you know, how many people are really AI first in their productivity, in their job, in what they do? How many are really experiencing vibe coding and saying, "Yeah, I want to create an app and be able to do it"? How many people are really digging in and understanding transformer as the underpinnings and know it's a guess, albeit logical and intelligent and well informed? I mean, how many people, based on your experience, are really where they need to be to totally embrace this radical shift that's happening in our society globally?
What a question. I think it's extremely prolific now. Um, in terms of radical changes, what I'm what I'm hearing. So I talk to obviously a lot of security companies, and some of them are pretty big, like the one you work at.
You bet.
And what they're saying is they're getting a lot more productivity out of their developers. In fact, some are scaling back the number of developers and getting more productivity anyway because of AI coding assistance.
Yep.
So that's a measurable progress that's happening already. Um, I'd say, and I saw a report yesterday where many people's and I can say this is generally me too. Instead of going to Google and doing a search, people are going to a chatbot as a first response. So instead of like, you know, I go in and like, tell me about what can I find out about checkpoint firewalls? Well, the old way is I'd go to Google and I'd say checkpoint firewalls, and I'd get checkpoint, I'd get competitors, I might get some white papers, I might get some industry research. Well, now I go to Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. And that's had a backward effect on things like ad revenue
Mm,
and things like traffic to different websites. And
totally.
so content providers are questioning their models.
Yep.
So, for instance, like we saw with the internet, when the internet first came up, local newspapers suffered. Well, there's still major newspapers and there's still some local newspapers, but if people start using an AI interface, what happens there? So
Yep.
I don't know that I'm answering your question, but I think it's had a profound effect already. And to use an analogy you used before, we're in like the, I don't know, bottom of the first, it's
Oh,
top of the
maybe,
second inning. And so
maybe.
and the technology is progressing so fast
Yep.
that that I think we'll just see um, kind of exponential curves over time. Just every couple of years, we'll see an exponential curve of change.
Yes, and there's no question in my mind within the industry we're in uh, and the larger uh, uh, let's say technology software industry at large, they're all in. I get it. What I want to know is, let's get a couple of layers outside of that onion.
Okay.
Let's get out into, you know, real, just Procter and Gamble and uh, maybe not the big giant P&Gs, but just corporate America that are insurance companies and uh, processors. And do you see the adoption there as well, as prolific as we in the industry?
Yes. I'll give you my opinion and what I know. I'm not an expert on those things, but for instance, I've done a bit of a deep dive in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
and it's absolutely changing diagnostics. It's absolutely changing administration. So a lot of your healthcare cost, and if you go to the doctor, everyone does, you know this.
Yep.
Um, they're using really high tech equipment. They're very smart on the patient care side, but on the administrative side, it's it's like 20 years ago. It's just
Yep.
really poorly
Well,
run. And
HIPAA and it's put the fear of God in any health organization with the data. So as a
yes,
result, there's no optimization, streamlined data exchange. That's
well, there actually is, and there's some standards that the healthcare industry uses, and that's going to generate
like
a lot
fire. You
more.
mean you're talking about that kind of file format standards?
There are file format standards. There are data sharing standards.
Mm.
A lot of this is being done in anticipation of using this for AI. There's a big
I
effort at Stanford Health. There's a big effort at the Mayo Clinic.
it's not
There's
hitting
a
my health providers because I still get handed the clipboard, and then I go up 10
so do
floors
I.
and I get handed a clipboard. And I'm thinking, I mean, so
But that's
there's
going to
still a lot of,
change, Grant. I mean,
yeah,
so the amount of data created in healthcare is huge, and we're at the cusp of much more proliferation of wearable technologies, of home diagnostics, and we're think about telemedicine and things like that.
yeah,
So there's tremendous amounts of data being created, and there are companies, and I know because my son works at one, that collect all of this data so that they can fine tune your treatments.
yeah,
Um, and so, I mean, that's just a classic example. But yeah, it's happening there. Education, and this is really this is something I'm really bullish on. Is like you know the kids who go to school today really learn the same way that you and I learned, and we really learned the same way our parents learned. Now,
yep,
my parents were born in 1921,
yep,
so so there hasn't been a lot of progress there. There are tools, and yes, we use computers and things like that.
right,
Um, but with AI, we have the opportunity to customize learning because you may learn by reading. I may learn by watching videos.
yep,
Uh, it may take you more time to gather a concept than it takes me, but if a teacher can fine tune
yep,
their education to the individual, that changes things. So those are just a couple of
huge.
examples.
And I completely agree. I guess my thought is more operationally, organizationally. I think there's some people that are making big changes. I I guess I don't see it in the rest of us, if you will. Just when I talk to my friends and peers, they're like, you know, AI, and so I don't doubt industries are transforming and being changed. I'm talking about all the ants, the worker ants, just the regular old folks. How much are they really? I mean, I got a max plan with Claude, and I've had that for months. Uh, how many people are really digging into it? I mean, I'd love to get that info, because when I walk around my neighborhood, it's not happening here.
Well,
In the back office at the companies they work for, maybe it
yes.
is. But
Yeah,
I'm talking.
as it proliferated day to day society, probably more than we think.
Mm,
I think it will. If you look at some of the dexterity of the robots that are being created,
yeah,
uh,
that's crazy. I've seen some of that.
yes,
It's just unbelievable.
yeah, because
And you're on the East Coast, you're Boston area. So Boston Dynamics, isn't that the company?
yes,
They just doing some remarkable with their dog. Uh,
yes.
yeah.
Now the scary thing is, it's not regulated very well, and the military aspects of AI are frightening, and that's kind of what I worry about. But getting back to your question, like the day to day activity, no, like there's still house painters around, there's still landscapers. Like we don't have robots doing that.
Yeah.
I think in 10 years we will have some degree of robots helping out. There's a cost factor there, but multifunction robots are what people are thinking about. So I don't know. Now we're talking science fiction a little bit.
Yeah, but it's exciting. It's fun, and it's a
It
lot
is.
closer.
I'm
It's
bullish.
yeah, and it's so much closer, John, than you know when we. I know when I was kids, and you'd talk about space and talking on your phone, or talking on something that you had that now we do have that we didn't have then. I mean, it's exciting because it's within. It's seemingly so much closer and within reach. You, like, for example, um, I'm convinced a few years, like 2 years ago, I think I had some data in a presentation I was delivering that said, because of AI, we've discovered 400,000 new compounds, 1.2 million new materials that man hadn't known of before. And while I totally agree, not every one of those discoveries is going to be penicillin, right? But I have to believe in a sampling of that size, something's going to come out of it that's going to be extraordinary. And
Yes.
so I apply that same logic to medicine, like you were just talking about. And I think up until now, hey, John, we need to talk to you. Here's the recommended procedure, and we'll cut that out and we'll throw that piece away and we'll stitch it up this way, right? I mean, this was how we would eradicate or mitigate further disease, is we cut it out of you. And, and I'm convinced that just in the next 3 to 36 months, we're going to start to discover ways to cure things, so you don't have to have quite the drastic procedures going forward. I'm convinced we're going to discover remedies, cures, ways to avoid uh, disease and all kinds of health problems that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you think about wearable technologies, right? So suppose you had diabetes. So you're testing your glucose levels and reporting that, and then taking insulin when you can. But if you had real time data, you could adjust your diet better. You could adjust your insulin intake better. You could
Real time
understand
all the time, right?
real
That
time all the
Dextron
time.
thing, those are amazing.
You could understand the implications of exercise on your health,
Yeah.
and you'd probably have an AI bot backing those up, fine tuning your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So that's before a physician actually sees you, and they're the human in the loop that time. If there's an alert that
Yep.
really alarms them, that would be escalated to them. But a lot of that will be managed without the human in the loop, and that's really exciting. And you're right. This is like within the next 3 years, this is going to
Yep.
happen.
Yep. Yep. I want to go back to something because I was thinking about, you're talking about how you used to use Google and now you go to one of the bots and it's a different experience. Do you think also, I know this is how it's been with me, it serves as a much more it's a much more enriching educational experience because it allows me to drill in on something that it's shared with me. And I'll give you an example. I was doing I was looking up something on the brain, and all of a sudden in the description, it mentioned microtubules. Okay. Now I went, what is a microtubule in your brain? So I went down that hole. But it was fascinating what I learned because it all has to do with how the theory is that anything and everything, that's how it passes through your brain. It's through these little microtubules that are dynamic and can shift and change, and it's fascinating, right? But my point is, I would never have got that if I'd have done the search for what I was searching for two reasons. One, it would have not, I wouldn't have been able to dig into it the same kind of way, the interaction, right? And that's where I've really found it kind of fascinating to, create your personas, get a project so that, load the files so it doesn't have to look every time, so that it really truly starts to operate as a partner with you. And you can say, hey, what does the CTO think? Hey, what's product management think? And they can give you that feedback as if you actually have a CTO or a product manager working on the project. That's fascinating stuff, man.
I totally agree. I'm a researcher, and the degree with which this is helpful for research is it's a quantum improvement. And I
Yep.
tell my kids, there's never been a better research tool in the history of humanity
Yep. No
what we have
kidding.
at our disposal. Now, going back to your like everyday use, and you said you spin up these agents. I mean, that's the classic example people talk about is like um, your scheduling,
Yep.
your travel planning, your itineraries. The more the agents learn about you, the more that they can make suggestions. So let's say you want to go to Fiji and you have a time frame in mind and you have some activities in mind and things like that. That's a lot of work. And classically, even with internet tools, that was still a lot of work, and you had to sort through all the nonsense that was there. And
Yep.
this can streamline that process. And that's active, or that's possible today. So
Yep. Yep. It's
um,
happening. I
I'm
think,
not.
and
I don't know many people who are doing this yet, but it's you can do it.
well, I think those, talking about like those development departments and the scalability and productivity being realized from an individual developer. I think what you're going to see is the savvy ones are going to build armies of
Yes.
agents that are specialists at plugins, at this particular interface, this particular integration. I mean, they're going to have
Right.
agents that are. But I think that's what's going to happen to all of us. I just had a guest on the program that wrote a book. It's called Least Intelligence. I'm looking for it. It's around here somewhere. Least, as in LEASED.
I'm going to write that one down.
And yeah, doggone it, where is that book? I have it. I just started reading it. Um, but it's a fascinating concept because I was intrigued to have him on the program, Dr. Farid Atif. I have to look him up. I just had him. I haven't published the episode yet, but I believe in the very near future, you're going to be able to say, hey, I want 200 IQ points in electrical engineering, right? Or at least have the resources that have that level of intellect in a particular discipline. And so one of the one of the theses I've had is suggesting IQ is not going to really be so important. It's going to be EQ. It's going to be your ability to be human as we get surrounded by more and more machines, to have a gut reaction that you'll never get from a bot, to have
Yes.
sweaty palms that a bot would never realize. Those aspects of us as humans, I think, are going to become the richest part of what we do, because that's where we're going to be able to contribute the most.
I agree. And going full circle back to security operations, that's still an advantage, that cognitive knowledge, those instincts, like
Yeah.
something doesn't look right here because um, where the agents can help is putting together all the evidence, but still someone needs to reason that out, and maybe that reasoning goes to um, like a RAG type of activity,
Right.
just retraining the models. Um, but that will always be valuable. I mean,
Yeah.
these agents can think, but they think the way we tell them to think, and they can expand from there, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but they'll, in my view, there'll always be a human in the loop, or hopefully, or else we're all extinct, I guess.
That's right. We got problems.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one additional question and just get your feedback on. I was watching a news show the other day, and actually, I take it back. It was an AI program. I think it was Frontline or something. One of the AI programs that they've done, and they were talking about China and the enormous and highly prevalent surveillance society that they have. And they've got technology, it's like 5 seconds or something just crazy that they get your face, they know who you are anywhere in the country almost, right? I mean, because the cameras are everywhere. And it goes beyond that, because it's behavior, it's what you do, it's where you go, it's how often you go to the bathroom, it's how long you take, it's every single behavior is a data point. And the suggestion was, as we move into this future where we're headed so rapidly, data is the new oil.
Mm-hmm.
And so it begs the question, who's got more oil? If you have a society that's so surveillance oriented, collecting so much information on the society, they have far more data on the behavior of their citizens, on the society, and I mean, way more than we do. Is that a good thing?
Let's see.
And I mean, you see what I mean? Because I could see how it could be used for good. Equally,
Could be.
it could be used as it is, where you do something wrong in China, and all of a sudden your social score goes down because they saw you writing on the back of the chair in the bus or something. I mean, it's pretty scary.
I guess I'd answer it this way: is that yes, it would be beneficial if all of our data was collected. And there's always been talked about opt-in programs.
Isn't it
The
being
issue
collected,
is,
though? I mean,
what's that?
Isn't it being collected?
A lot of it's being collected, but it's distributed. We do have some protections. They don't. I mean, you can certainly get overwhelmed by the amount of data that you collect.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more like there's a lot of garbage in collecting everything that you do. Uh, and so the question is, and this is really a fundamental point of AI is like, what is the objective at the end of the day? So if it's collecting data about cancer treatments, okay, then we know what data we want to collect. We know who we need to collect it from. We know what we're looking for. Um, and so that to me is a much more focused effort. And there's still tremendous amounts of data we can collect if people opt in. But that to me is more useful than just collecting everything.
Yeah.
Where I mean, where are you going to store it? Who's going to mine it? Is it all in the same standard format? I suppose China's thought through a lot of this stuff, but
Yeah. Well, I think your point on you know the ability to aggregate and centralize is a key when you have all of that data. I mean, if my for example, my health data never gets mixed in with who I am, but it's anonymized, then it's different. But if I've got it all in the same bucket, it gives me different insights. Uh,
yes, I so I'm not keen on centralization of data. I think we've gotten to the point where it's impossible and
mm,
way too costly. I'm very into federating the data. And you can do that if agents are smart enough to know when to query what data.
yep,
And in a from a security perspective, we're at that level.
yep,
Now, it's also helpful if the data is in the same schema,
yep.
which has never happened in the history of, certainly in the history of computing, but probably in the history of the world. But we can also do some things with agents to make them smart at parsing the data. So,
Right,
we're getting there, but I no, I don't. I mean, China's a different kind of society. I think in the United
totally.
States and in Western Europe, we don't want anyone to oversee and have access to or centralize all of that data.
Well, and that's where I think, I guess I think about we didn't want to let Mythos out, and then it got out. I mean, uh, so all this data is getting collected. We don't want it to get into the same bucket, but if it's out there, there's always that introduces the potential, right, of
Yes.
someone trying to accomplish that, um, and it just
Yeah, and there's good there, and as you know, there's good use of that data, and there's malicious use of that data, and that's what we security professionals have to think about.
forever that's the case. Forever that's the case. I mean, that's why I've said many times the industry that we're in, it, the only industry that I think is similar, or you could say is the same, is kinetic war, with one difference: is there's no end in sight in cyber because of the anonymity. Where in kinetic, you can't be quite as anonymous. And seems like eventually we somebody's going to wave a white flag or say, come on, this is enough's enough, or something.
I would
um,
like to see that. There's been some work at the UN. There's what was it? The cyber. I can't remember the organization off the top of my head, but there was a U.S. government effort. So the Cyber Symposium.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I do believe that we need some kind of Geneva Convention for cyber security, for cyber warfare, for cyber espionage,
Yeah.
because it's out of control. And
Well, AI has enabled, I mean, we didn't even really dig into this, and I wanted to, the whole exposure management, the whole exposure, let's just say that, that, and the speed and pace and efficiency that AI can employ to get you is on an unprecedented scale. And this is why I really worry. not so much about GE and Procter and Gamble and Johnson and Johnson and the other giant companies. I worry about that layer that is the rest of us, all the small businesses that just don't really have the moxie and the capabilities and have kind of skated by because nobody's noticed them. I think those days are numbered. What do you think?
Oh, I think those days are behind us. I think, um, and you're right. And this is a tremendous problem. It's a societal problem. Is that if you look at local school districts, regional hospitals, regional banks, they're not hiring the people who came out of the NSA or who studied computer science at Carnegie Mellon.
Yep.
They have an IT person, and that IT person or several IT people may spend some of their time on security, and they're getting breached all the time. And
Yeah.
so, and it was ransomware 5 years ago, and now it's extortion. Um, yeah, this is a huge problem, and you're right. AI just accelerates that.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
And if you were behind before, your ass is kicked, man. You're done. You're done.
yes. Now, I do think there'll be great improvements on defenses using AI, but there still needs knowledge and all the things we talked about before. You need to have the right data. You need to have the right people in place to operate the AI and orchestrate the actions
Yeah.
and put up the guardrails. And so that's still going to be a problem.
I personally think this is a type of, I think, could be a renaissance for managed services if they could because the speed and pace of the bad guys leveraging AI, they're kicking our ass. And I think that's the only way the level of expertise can reach those companies because from a cost justification perspective, right? I can't afford. I mean, I have Joe, but he's our shipping guy, right? As opposed to an OPEX monthly budget, and I let these guys help me and take care of me, whether it's managing my perimeter, whether it's exposure, what have you. I really see it shifting much more that way for the SMB. What do you think?
It's an interesting dynamic. And I'll tell you what's happening now is so people hired MSSPs or MDR vendors for a few reasons, but primarily one is uh, to triage alerts, right? So I don't want to hire 5 junior analysts to triage alerts. I want someone to do that for me and then escalate it to me when appropriate. And
Right.
then the second reason was for 7 by 24 coverage. Now there are other reasons too, skill sets, budget issues, stuff like that. But you look at some of the AI SOC vendors, and they're going into the MSSP and MDR customers and saying, "You don't need those guys anymore. We can do that. We use agents to do that stuff," and that is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
MSSPs and MDR vendors, how did they make their money? And their margins are so thin. It was they had to automate as much as they could uh, to avoid paying for people.
Right.
So there's this dynamic going on where I think the MSSPs and MDR, especially the MDR players, have to become the pioneers of agentic SOCs. They have to.
Mm-hmm.
That's their business
Mm-hmm.
model.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you look at like Expel and Arctic Wolf and others, they're investing in that area. Uh, and so that there's a race on as to how fast they can do that because it's somewhat compelling to say you don't need people anymore. You can have agents doing that, and
Yeah.
especially that both examples, right? If you say I can't hire level one analysts, I want someone to do that grunt work for me.
Yep.
Well, I could hire an MSSP or an MDR vendor more likely, or I can buy some agentic solution. And what
Mm,
about 7 by 24? Well, agents never sleep.
right
So it's not even follow the sun. It's just, you know, the agents are
there.
working for you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic on that. Now,
Hmm.
like we said before, there's some roles. This is my theory, is that the MDR vendors can recognize those new roles that they need faster and invest in those, and then they have an advantage
Hmm.
over some of the solutions, because the solutions still assume you are employing those people who can
Right.
manage it, and maybe the MDR providers can do that better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know
Yeah.
if I
Yeah. No,
rambled there.
no, and I think you're spot on. And it's like, it's theirs for it. Hopefully, they're constantly looking and realizing the opportunities that are getting afforded them, because sometimes you could look at it and go, oh, holy shit, man, our business is falling apart. So, you got to be able to, thread the needle and see the opportunities, right?
Yes, and one more point I'll add is, why are there 150 companies doing this? Because it's illogical, right? Because and VCs are generally pretty smart business people, so why would they fund the 149th or the 150th company?
Yeah.
They're betting that agentic solutions can do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm the city that I live in. Um, they're betting that there'll be an agentic solution that can be employed, and maybe I need one person overseeing that whole thing,
Yep.
versus historically buying, like, I don't know, 12, 15, 50 security products,
Yeah.
or spending that money on an MDR or MSSP.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, will that happen? I don't know, but that's their bet. That's
Yeah.
absolutely the bet, is that somebody's going to take this over.
Well, and there's always kind of waves, right? Like identity a few years ago was like, there were so many identity companies, it was crazy. And there's still a bunch. Uh,
Oh yeah, and a lot of acquisitions in that area.
exactly. Exactly. But, I read that as opportunity. There's going to be lots of millionaires made with all these exciting things that are happening. There's
If
no
I were
doubt
a
about
younger man, Grant,
Hey, that's right.
knowing
That's
what I
right.
know now, if I were a younger man, I even
Hey,
have a business plan that I'd love to do, but I'm alas, I'm too old to go through that.
remember, Colonel Sanders was like late 60s when he started
He was making
Kentucky
chicken,
Fried
though. He
Chicken.
wasn't going and raising money from VCs and
Yeah,
hiring
that's true.
engineers and offshoring development and all. I'm too old. Too old for that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're not too old to have as a guest on my program. You've been awesome. So I surely appreciate you taking the time. I know you got to jump. We've had a great conversation. Jon, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I want to have you back. Okay.
It's always fun talking to you, Grant. You're an old friend, and happy to come back sometime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope, as I always say, you enjoyed this as much as I did. This has been a special one. Jon Oltsik, just an all around amazing analyst who's been in the biz for a long time and really knows his shit. And he's a great guy. Look him up, find him on LinkedIn. And hey, if this is an episode you enjoyed, I sure hope you'll share it, like it, tell your friends, subscribe. And we'll look forward to having you back on the next episode of Talking Innovation. Take care.